Happy Saturday. Happy Pride Day. Happy Juneteenth award ceremony day. This is our second one. I see some familiar faces. I see some new faces. I see a lot of elected officials. I see community members. And when I think about Juneteenth and when I think about the people that we're honoring today, I think about community and I think about unity. And you can't say community without unity. And so all of us coming together to celebrate our community's accomplishments is a testament to all of our work and all of our allies' work that have joined us that are also here today. And so with that being said, welcome to the second annual Juneteenth Awards ceremony. Today we have an incredible list of awardees. I figure we're going to really have a fun time today. We're going to have some music, we're going to have some live performances, we're going to have some elected officials come out and talk about what Juneteenth means to them. With that being said, I want to introduce Danny Lee to come up as a presenter. I will give it off to you.
Hi everybody. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Danny Lee. I am a new board member of BLM PAC. It is an honor to be here, and it is with great honor that I present BLM PAC's Emerging Leader Award to Zainabu Tiam, this extraordinary young woman who graduated from the Met High School this week. This young woman exemplifies the spirit of leadership and community commitment. She truly does it all, serving as her graduating class's student president, balancing that with her roles as an athlete, a passionate advocate for Woonsocket youth, the co-founder and president of Silence is Violence 401, a board member of Shades of Knowledge, and the CEO and founder of Sunubari. Zainabu's leadership journey began at the age of 14, fearlessly stepping into roles that uplift the well-being of her community. Her entrepreneurial venture, Sunubari, has been a remarkable success, demonstrating profitability since its inception. Zainabu's dedication to designing and scaling her business, as well as expanding its online presence, reflects her business acumen and creative genius. In recognition of her outstanding achievements, she has received numerous accolades, including victories in the NFTE New England Business Plan Competition, and the esteemed title of Ernst & Young New England Entrepreneur of the Year Scholar in 2023. Wow. Anyway, rooted in a strong nonprofit background, Zainabu's commitment to philanthropy remains unwavering. Her advocacy for empowerment and economic opportunity resonates deeply through her speaking engagements, where she inspires diverse audiences, particularly youth, women, and BIPOC individuals. Zainabu Tiam embodies the essence of a true leader, entrepreneur, and advocate. Her ability to inspire and empower others has been a cornerstone of her path. Her dedication to excellence and boundless compassion position her as a trailblazer, poised to shape a brighter future for her community and beyond. We are proud to celebrate her remarkable achievements and contributions with this award.
Yes.
Come on up.
Hold that award up real quick. Okay. Oh, yeah, that's my, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. I'm gonna bring Mr. Tuttle back up here. He did not tell me what to do after.
Mr. Tuttle, can you believe that? Thank you everybody for giving the credit. Before we go into the next awardee, I just want to say my personal thank you for all the work that you've done, not only in your city of Woonsocket, but throughout the state. Zay has done congressional debates, she has hosted protests, and it hasn't been easy, and I know it hasn't been easy, and it's your courage in the face of fear that makes you special. It's what's going to make you special no matter where you go in life. And I just want to say, from my bottom of my heart, thank you. Next up, we have an incredible artist, activist. I'm not entirely sure if the description that I give here today is going to really articulate the full extent in which the impact that this individual has made. And that's, of course, I'm talking about Aganza. Aganza, you could easily see the impact that Aganza has made everywhere she goes, because everywhere she goes, she leaves an impact. She leaves a mark on the city and the people that come before her and after her. Aganza was born in Providence, and her journey of resilience, creativity, and profound cultural impact comes from a rich heritage of her parents, from her mother from Puerto Rico and her father from the Dominican Republic. In 2020, amongst the Black Lives Matter movement happening across the country, the same movements and protests that gave way to this very organization, Aganza made headlines in Providence for her bold and inspiring murals on storefronts, showing her solidarity with the movement, and her art became a beacon for the community. And we talk about what it means to make an impact. How can one individual make an impact? Well, you don't always need to be at the State House. You can make music, you can do poetry, you can make art, and these are all different ways in which people have made an impact. And I think Aganza, with her work, when it comes to her artwork, but particularly when it comes to raising up people of color in the space, raising up and providing opportunities. I remember Aganza doing a mural at a previous job that I had, and we came to her with this idea, and we said, well, we don't really know what it's going to look like, but we know we want it to show us a sense of community, and we also want it to be something that comes from your heart, and that comes and is displayed in a way that I believe represents the community as a whole. And that mural is incredible. It's at Stop-the-Wait, Rhode Island, if you want to come see. But there are a lot of murals that can be shown throughout the city. And I'm just so incredibly honored to award this award to you. And thank you, and come right up.
Yay.
Hi guys. Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you. I was debating, I was sitting there saying, should I say something?
Yes.
But absolutely. When I received the email that I won this award, I'm trying not to cry. I'm just really thankful because, I'm just a girl from the projects, and I've done a lot of things because of what my family has gone as immigrant parents, and I feel like the fight is still not over. It's like getting an award for something that's halfway done, and that's how I truly feel. Like, I feel like there's so much to do, and at first I always felt like my art wasn't enough. Like, okay, I'm painting, but I think what I think touches me the most is, like, I go to schools and I have youth come up to me and say, I want to be like you when I'm older. And that's something big for me because I didn't have anybody that looked like me when I was growing up. Never fit in with anybody. I didn't fit any group. My hair was too curly for my Latino friends, but I had a lot of Cape Verdean friends, and it was just really difficult. And so teaching people that it's not about where you come from, what you're doing, it's about standing and being. You could say what you could say, but what are you doing? You could have so many tools in your belt. What are you doing with those tools? And that's the question. It's more like figuring out what's my purpose? How can I give back? And how can I make a change? And when I'm gone on this earth, how can someone say, she changed my mindset. She changed the way I looked at things. And that's the purpose I do with my art. And when I receive this award, I always say, I wish little Amounza could see this, because it's a long journey. I've been through a lot, and I'm still. And before coming here, I'm noticing when 2020 hit. I've been doing activism art for a long time, since college, and I got rejected before 2020. As an artist, I got rejected a lot because they said my art was too urban, and I hated that. I'm like, my art is too urban, and then 2020 hit, all of a sudden everybody wants to pull me in different directions to do everything. The activist in me was like, no, you didn't want me before, so why should you want me now? But I didn't look at it like that, because I'm like, that you want to use me as, the golden child, just to say you supported it, I'm going to use yours platform equally. And that's what I did. And I stood up and I was like, that's what I did. And now 2024, and all of a sudden, it's not a trend anymore on social media to be protesting and standing up for what's. And it's not a trend, so everybody's hopping off the wagon. And that makes me mad, because I'm still standing here and I'm still fighting. And the past week alone, I've been to a few events, and they're not doing what they were doing in 2020, because it's not a trend anymore. And I walked a lot of events with this exact shirt, and with a lot of heads, a lot of people avoiding to talk to me, because now it's not a conversation, so it's awkward. And I hate it, because it's still happening. And so, as a little girl from the West Side, from Manhattan Projects, I just want to say thank you so much, and I can't wait to see who the next leaders are, and I'm just excited for this whole journey, so thank you.
Give another round of applause for Amounza. Well, at this point now, we're going to transition to spoken poetry, spoken word by Chachi. And we're also going to have a couple of remarks from the Rhode Island General Treasurer of Rhode Island, James Dioza. I'll be set up for that. Stay tight. Thank you.
Chachi!
Thank you.
Love you, Chachi.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here. I want to acknowledge Mayor Donna Brevian, who gave me an opportunity to serve as the city that I love, the city of Pawtucket's first Chief Equity Officer. I really appreciate it. It's been one of the scariest journeys that I've embarked on, but I'm starting to feel comfortable and starting to see the impact that I can make from that position. It feels really good to know that I could be a bridge, continue to be a bridge. I also want to acknowledge somebody who is way younger than me, but somebody who I like to look up to tremendously, and that's Zach. Zach Pinto, who was one of my students, somebody that played football for me. So I he saw like me at my best, and I'm being like soft and calm and chill in the classroom, and then he saw me while me yelling and losing my hair on the sideline. But all of that comes from a place of love, and I feel like that is in complete alignment with like the work that we do as change agents. There are multiple ways to make movement. There are multiple ways to move the needle. And as somebody who fell in love with hip hop culture as a young person and still uses that as practice, the way I like to move the needle is like like that. And some, and it right? It's small movements, and sometimes it feels like it's in the same place, but it's not. And that's powerful to me. I want to share two poems with you. And I was talking to my brother Chip. We were running around the quad of URI, freestyle rapping together for years in the early 90s. But we were just talking about forms of currency that we don't really acknowledge or that are underrated. And two that I was thinking about as I was driving here, reflecting on my journey through like fatherhood as we approach Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to you and yours. The proximity and time, and just time to spend time with the ones that you love, and an opportunity to be close to the ones that you love. And as I reflect on Juneteenth and all of the sacrifices that our ancestors had to make, and then the access that we have now, like I have a wonderful relationship where I'm able to communicate with my granddaughter on a daily basis, and she's in Louisiana, and I can do it through my phone. And that matters. So for me not to see the beauty and the movements that have been made for us to be here in this moment of time right now, and to not acknowledge that, man, things could be better, but man, things are really good too, then I would be remiss. So I have two pieces. That time and proximity, that currency is extremely valuable to me because of my grandfather. And this first piece is about my grandfather, who, his mother, my great-grandmother, was the first of my lineage to touch down in the United States of America, and that was in 1920. And 40 years passed before my grandfather had an opportunity to set eyes and hug and touch his mother. My grandfather left, oh man, Celeste is in the building. My grandfather left, and when he left, he shared stories with me that he never shared with his children. And I don't know why he gave me that gift, to be able to now go back and have conversations with my mother and my uncles and my aunts and tell them things that they never knew about their father. And that's beautiful. So this first piece is called Listen. If character and perseverance could equate to the measure of a man, and if dignity and unconditional love could be felt with the shake of a hand, and if eyes could tell the stories of 93 years of plans, then the sacrifices he made would never fade like grains of sand, because he had ambition. He was more than just a bearer of children and a welder of precision. He was more than just a craftsman with passion. He built homes overlooking the deep waters. He traveled as a man of the sea, where the ocean was a mirror of rhythm that provided the inspiration for him to become a sweet serenading street musician, drawing crowds of wealth and misfortune, providing love through music in exchange for applause. A few shots of grog and a meal that was fit for a king, he would sing. He would sing under moonlit windows for she, hidden behind the shadows of overprotective sisters, with hope that his words would entice his soon-to-be queen. He would sing. As he conquered the unforgiving waters to beautiful places, remembering hardships and using each as motivation, he then built windows of opportunity and remained under a strict discipline for them because he had ambition. His mother, he only remembered through letters and pictures and tears. For 40 years, he only saw her in dreams because she was in America. She was the American dream. A dream that he pursued by any means, while his world was torn between the length of the sea, his children and queen in the place they should be. So he did what the world said that he couldn't do. He dreamed, and he made that dream come true. Yeah. This is just one of the stories I knew. Over the years, we shared quite a few. We played music and laughed while I cut his hair in the kitchen. Many years passed, and I still really miss him. He's the reason I pride myself on being a good father. He's the reason I work hard to be a musician. I pray he still has some stories to tell. When I see him again, because I can't wait to listen. Thank you.
Oh, wow.
Now, this next and last piece I want to share with you is about me. Sometimes when you work in spaces where you're visible and everything you do and say is public information. I know all the elected officials in here, right, and all of the change agents and all of us that utilize our platform, Mr. Vincent, to just speak our truth. When that's visible, it's difficult to understand and hold on to who you really are, right? The little kid that's ambitious staring up at the stars, or the one who just won a Super Bowl and is holding up a trophy, or the one who's scared to dance, 8th grade dance, and awkward and trying to figure things out. And so as you move through, you have to find ways to hold on to those bits and pieces of you that remind you of the you that's still dreaming and still trying to figure out what you want to be when you grow up. And that's why even when I'm in a suit, I have on a pair of Jordans. And that's the one thing, that's the one pass I get from my wife. It's like, I was like, I'm gonna buy every single pair of sneaker I couldn't afford when I was little. Is that okay? And she's like, yes. Yeah. Right? And so this piece here is about me, but it's also about all of you, and the fact that you're sitting here in this room, then I know that to be true. To all of you who are working really hard to hold on to who you really are and also be who you envision yourself to be in the future for the people around you, to make sure that you're being a good example. Yeah, and this one's called I Am Strong. I am strong. My bones may ache and my mind may be weak at times, but I am strong. I am of the ancestry of dream chasers who rode sunsets and moons, who inhaled endless oceans and imagined hope, who left behind cold histories in order to be the fathers of brilliant futures. I am strong. I am of the firsts. I am a creator of life. I am the biggest oak tree in the forest, and I am strong. They try to chop me with steel, and they try to turn my branches into weapons, but I stand still. The wind embraces my pain, and the sun reminds me to smile, because I know who I am. I know where I am from. I know they do not fear my presence. They fear my potential, because I know that they know that I am strong. Thank you. Happy tea.
Thank you, Chachi. That was powerful. Thank you so much. With that being said, I am proud to introduce the Rhode Island General Treasurer of Rhode Island, Rhode Island General Treasurer, James Yield.
Thank you, Harrison, and thank you to BLM and Black Lives Matter for inviting me here today. But first, I want to say, Chachi, growing up in the Blackstone Valley right next door to CF, every time I see you, you make me want to freestyle. I'm just kidding. No, but we were all big fans of Chachi growing up, and to us, he was the coolest kid in the Blackstone Valley, and seeing him do what he's doing with Mayor Grebian is incredibly powerful. But I just want to give some brief remarks. I want to give a shout out to many of the elected officials, my brother, the Secretary of State, Greg Amore, Mayor Reps Councilman Pichardo, Rep Potter, Rep Kislak, future reps in the building too, I see. But more importantly is to recognize that, although the history is long around Juneteenth, this has only been a short time since we've been celebrating. And this is an important and powerful opportunity for the younger generations to be empowered on how they shape the future generations around Juneteenth. And so I'm excited to be here, and this is my second time, and be at the second annual celebration of BLM celebrating Juneteenth. It's important for me to be here because as a person of color, now serving at the state level, I think it's important that we celebrate culture, we celebrate history, but more importantly, we educate not only the populations who still don't know much about Juneteenth, but also celebrate it in a very positive way so that history never repeats itself. So thank you again, God bless, and have a great day. Thank you.
Good morning. Morning. Bon dia. Buenos dias. Bonjour. Hey, some of the most respected people in my mind are here this morning. So I really appreciate each and every one of you because I'm looking at who's here, and some of the people I respect the most are here. So if you're not here, no. But anyway, it is a pleasure for me to introduce this next person who we have a fondness for in terms of the next award. But first, I want to say that I'm so grateful to be here on Juneteenth and Father's Day weekend. About 20 years ago, I was a part of an organization called the Urban League. And when I thought they were losing their way, I joined the NAACP. And 2 years ago, when I thought they were losing their way, I was looking for an organization that was rooted in policy and advocacy and that wanted to really get things done. And I found Black Lives Matter, PAC. So I really appreciate being a board member of this organization. Board member, senior advisor. And Chachi talking about his granddaughter, on the FaceTime or whatever. It is a delight to be with people, more or less, that could be my grandchildren. I am energized because of their energy. They are keeping me going and keeping me focused. And I think that that's a win-win for all of us. So I can't thank Harrison and all the team, all the board members enough for allowing me to be a part of what I think is something great and only going to be greater in the future. But I'm here because of my sister Angie Bannerman and Coma, who I've known, I guess, Angie, 20 years at least. But before I say anything, I want to make sure that people understand that Angie has gotten a lot of recognition and honors or whatever, but it's all deserved because of the work that she does each and every day for the community. But please make sure you understand that she is a daughter of Ghana, the Black Stars, and that's important in her life too. People sometimes forget about the Black Stars. But I met Angie. She was working for the Department of Health. She was the chief in the Office of Minority Health. She was also the co-director of the Health Equity Institute. And I saw the kind of work she was doing. I guess that was like 15 years ago. And I said, Angie, I need a person like you to be the charge of my health committee at the NAACP because you've got it going on. She was too busy, and I respect that. But the kinds of things that she was doing was not only noticed by me, but it was noticed by people in the state. She ended up getting another job after the Department of Health at the United Way.
Yes.
And not just any job. She was hired as the Executive Vice President and Director of Community Investment for the United Way. And I know how important United Way is because I was on that board for 6 years. So for her to be at that high level, it was certainly something that was a win-win because of who she is and the kind of work that I felt the United Way needed to do. She was the right person at the right time in the right place. Angie Bannerman Copa. She's also, when she's not doing policy, she's a co-owner of Copa Menswear with her husband. And a lot of people, when they have to go somewhere or whatever, they know where to go. They gotta go to Copa. Copa, right Angie? You gotta go to Copa. But it is her work now. And I'm gonna describe her the way, I just saw something here, and it says that she is a visionary executive, equity driver, philanthropic strategist, and transformational leader.
Yes, yes.
And usually I don't read stuff, but I talk pretty, but I can't talk pretty like that. But that there really sums it all up. I mean, all of that, you know. So it's no wonder how we came, when we thought about who to give an award to in terms of this category, Angie's name came up, and everybody agreed that we need to honor this sister because she's doing the work, she continues to do the work, and we're all blessed to have Angie Bannerman Copa in Rhode Island.
yes.
So with that said, my sister, Angie Bannerman Copa.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much, Jim. First, I want to recognize the awardees. I feel blessed to be in such incredible honor and community with each one of you. Magans, I've seen your work over the past couple of years and admire your artwork across the city and state, so thank you for sharing your gifts with us. Zina Bueno, she had to step out, but, you know, I'm excited to be introduced to her today and looking forward to following her growth and leadership and trajectory as an emerging leader. So please, for those who know her, please tell me that looking forward to following her and her leadership. And my big sis, Henry, who's my sister in so many ways, you know. She knows whenever I need somebody to laugh, cry, like literally laugh until tears for silly things, or to really look at and strategize, I can always depend on her. And so I really feel incredibly honored to be in such good company. And lastly but not least, thank you for the Black Lives Rhode Island PAC. Because you're leading out in the forefront, and oftentimes those of us in various positions cannot say and do the things we would love to do. And so thank you for being the mouthpiece and leading the charge. You know, undergrad, I focused, my undergraduate degree was on Africana Studies. And so I'm always inspired by history and the work that we've done in history. I actually had a conversation right before we came in here with Adam about the relationship between Blacks and Jews and those who are involved in the struggle. And we know that revolutions are led by people who are young. And so I am inspired by the history of before and inspired by the work that we're doing today. And inspired by the leadership of Black Lives Rhode Island PAC. And so thank you very much for this award. I'm incredibly grateful. And let's keep moving on. Thank you.
Good morning. Happy Pride. Happy Juneteenth. Happy Father's Day. We got a lot going on this weekend. Before I present our next award, I know the General Treasurer, who I think had to take off, already did this, but I did want to shout out a few people in the crowd who, like Jim said, I also highly respect. So I see SOS Secretary of State Greg Amore's here. I see City Councilor Juan Pichardo's here. I see Central Falls Mayor Maria Rivera's here. State Senator Tiara Mack is here. I don't want to forget anybody. Rep Randy Potter's here. Rep Kislak is here. All right. I think I got everybody. Thank you for sharing space with us today. Honestly, thank you. Like, one of my favorite rappers in Chachi, I'm a hip hop connoisseur myself, so I have to say this. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us. And that's a quote by Jay-Z, and the best rapper of all time, of course. This next person really, truly needs no introduction. I've had the pleasure of knowing this person since 2018, and since that time, they've had an extraordinary impact on my life and on the life of so many people. And so this person is a native-born Liberian. She's a humanitarian. She's a social entrepreneur. She's a community builder, a breast cancer survivor, a COVID survivor, an award-winning advocate. She spent over 18 years in nonprofit management, helping transition individuals with disabilities from institutionalized settings to community integration. And then in 2008, she founded Higher Ground International. Higher Ground International's mission is to restore dignity, empower, and provide life-changing services for immigrants and refugees in Rhode Island. And to date, the organization has served over 50,000 individuals. Additionally, this person has worked to improve living conditions in rural Liberia, bringing clean water and sanitation services to over 10,000 community members in the country. She's a graduate of Rhode Island College and of Johnson & Wales University. She's a lifelong learner, having graduated from Leadership Rhode Island class of 2011, the Social Enterprise Greenhouse Accelerator Program, also in 2011, and the United Way of Rhode Island Executive Director Leadership Circle Program class of 2017. It is my great honor to welcome, and please give a strong and loud round of applause for Miss Henrietta White.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. It's really good to see so many friends here in the audience this morning. So I will tell you, when I received the email from Luan that I was going to be receiving the Lifetime Achievement Award, I read it and then I shut it off. I'm like, oh my God, these kids are already trying to put me off the path. Thinking I'm so old now. They're trying to get rid of me, but it was just, so heartwarming, and it was touching. It was touching because, when you work in a community and you've been in the trenches for so long, and you do the work, the thing that gives you so much passion and joy. And when you see young people recognize that, more than anything else, it touches you in a way that, okay, so I'm finally doing that thing to make a difference, to touch their lives. Because, I believe that with this work, I've been doing this for a long time, and it's been a ride. It hasn't been easy. It's been really hard, and it's been difficult, but it's in those difficult things and times that you understand what is important. And for me, what is important is community. It's about people who are on scene, people who doesn't have a voice, people who felt that they're being marginalized. It's those things that drives me every day, even in sickness, that I'm in my bed. And Angie knows that I'm there and I'm fighting. I'm fighting not for myself because, you know, we're looking at tomorrow. I came to this country as a young girl, a teenager, 17 years old. I left my family, no mother, no father. Left all my family except for one sister who was here. And I had to figure life out. You know, and I had to make my way, but I always never forgot the community, never forgot where I came from, never forgot the ideas of giving back. And so, you know, I remember, I'm always reminded of this quote from Mr. Rogers, who tells us to find helpers. And in my life, I've been most fortunate to find helpers. People who didn't look like me, people who didn't come from where I've come from, but people who really believed in this idea of community building. Seeing everybody as one, as human beings, and being able to support them. I have my friends, I have many friends in this audience. I have Barbara is sitting over there, and Kathy. You know, these were women who, you know, as I was trying to build higher ground and had nothing, they were there. You know, they were there to support me. They were there to open doors for me. They were there to, you know, to talk me up in places that I went not in. And so I am so deeply grateful, you know, for all of the generosity, for the love that I received from so many. Senator, he used to be Senator Pichado. He's a dear friend, but you know, he was one of those two when he was a senator, and we also didn't have anything. He would walk through my doors, and he would come and he would say to me, you know, I have this form that I need for you to fill out because, you know, I want you to apply for this little grant. That's how it works. That's how we help each other. That's how we lift each other up. That's how we see. We don't get to places and you feel that you become too big. Nobody's your equal anymore. You know, and you forget where you come from. Why I admire Angie every day is because she's received so many acclaim and achieved so much. But Angie walks with a sense of humility. And not humility because of being subservient, but humility because she knows the bridge that crossed her. And so she needs to remember to be able to turn back and help other people become lifted up. So I thank everybody, all of you, from Black Lives Matter. Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for recognizing me. Thank you for recognizing the work. This is just the beginning. We have a lot to do. We have a lot of work that still needs to be done. I think for me, more than anything else, it's about this legacy, right? About this next generation, all of you. What are we leaving for all of you for tomorrow? You know, so we here, we stand and we sacrifice and we do the hard things because we need to make sure that your tomorrow is brighter than so many others. So thank you all. I appreciate this. Thank you for your time.
Another round of applause. Another round of applause for all these audience. So we've got one more presentation. We have a keynote speaker. We're going to take about 5 minutes to set up.
Hello again. Oh my gosh, it's loud. Hi again. We're just gonna wait for more people to get settled.
Gorgeous.
Thank you so much. So do you. Hi. So, we are gonna get started with our keynote speech. And just to introduce our lovely keynote speaker, I'm bringing up Dr. Christopher West. I have known this man for over 5 years, almost 6 years. I actually met him in Pasadena City College, Pasadena, California.
Wow.
He was my African American history professor. I recall going into his office hours after every class and crying and telling all of my business and just feeling so safe. Feeling so safe and so seen and so heard. And what a serendipitous moment it was to be walking down Bayer Street after moving to Providence, Rhode Island, and bumping into him while he was listening to music. So, yeah, it is. It's a full circle moment, and in my opinion, who better to give this speech today? He is currently the curator of the Black Diaspora for Brown University. He is a historical consultant for the Rhode Island Black Heritage Society, and just all around amazing person. This is Dr. Christopher West.
Yay!
I suppose you're really going to make me cry in this public setting, so so when we think about Juneteenth, and we think about sort of its origin, the stories that we think about are very different from the lived experience in Rhode Island. Black community in Rhode Island, African heritage community in Rhode Island, in many ways is Cape Verde, Jamaican, Canadian, Afro-Caribbean, and Afro-Latino. Relatively small percentage of the population is connected into what would be a traditional African-American marriage. And so, as you're thinking about the relationship between this very sort of domestic African-American story, which is Juneteenth, and the origins of Black Lives Matter, you gotta back out a little bit. I want to give you my perspective, which is connected into my training as an historian. And I want you to treat it like there is a wall of information that happens every day. Terabytes of information. The only thing that a historian does is they reach into that wall of terabytes of information and they grab a bite of information. They turn away from the real world experience and they use some narrative or some approach by which to tell a story. Oftentimes those stories erase those that don't reflect their lived experience. And so when I talk about the history equation, I'm going to ask you to think about you or your own historian. And where you reach into that stream of bytes that happen, terabytes of information, I'm going to ask you to think about what guides your hand in choosing that information. What's a theory? What's a perspective? Because what we see oftentimes is an erasure, a removal, a lack of continuity and connection. And so as a result, how we reach into that data stream and what's produced in the data stream matters. I'll give you an example. My poor daughter is in the 4th grade. I'm just Dr. West at that point, so you know, it's just crazy. So my daughter goes into 4th grade and they do George Washington. The teacher goes, oh Lord, okay, go ahead, Chris's daughter, my daughter's name is Halia. She goes, Hunter de Gaius. And the teacher's like, I can't figure out what you're talking about. The Iroquois people, when they engage with the American Revolution, engage with a guy by the name of George Washington. You know him as the father of your nation, but what they know him as a person who was a town destroyer. And so when the Iroquois reach into the data stream and they pull a bite of information to describe George Washington, they use the word hunter de Gaius, town destroyer. And so the frame by which that we gather bites of information in many ways shape the way that we see the world. They come up with a language and a way to describe this town destroyer. Now we call him the father of our nation. We put a gigantic edifice in the middle of our nation's capital to represent him. But another group who lived in that same place, in that same location, reached into that same data stream, and they said, hunter de Gaius, town destroyer. And both of those truths you have to sit with concurrently, because both of those are truths. There's another truth you have to grapple with when it comes to us. And it's the slave trade, but it's the slave trade not the way that you've been presented. Recognize that you're in a state that was the intellectual head of the slave trade. Recognize that you're in a location in which the inter-American trade in the early 19th century is dominated by the rum merchants here and around. It's a story that gets told frequently, but you need to recognize where you actually sit. Because the state of Rhode Island is one of those locations in which the largest swath of the individuals in that state, people who sat in the First Unitarian Church, people who helped to create Brown University, people who helped to found foundations in this state, creators of Negro cloth, all benefited from the enslavement of the black body. I'm going to begin again. I'm going to come back to this phrase, Black Lives Matter. But I'm going to reach into that stream of information and pull different terabytes of information to reinforce why Black Lives Matter. Black Lives mattered in the state of Rhode Island because the rum merchants needed to have a fundamental basis by which to measure value, and that was the female black body. Black Lives matter because the hands of black bodies helped to build Brown University. Black Lives matter because the black body became the currency of trade in the state of Rhode Island. Black Lives matter because they've always mattered in the state of Rhode Island. And not because it's a plantation, because we play the plantation game. Plantation is a reference to the original way that the English in the colonization efforts in Ireland established a plantation, not the southern plantation system. Rhode Island was actually more dangerous. Rhode Island was the intellectual head of moving the black bodies through the system. That's the land you sit on. Those are the institutions that have been created. We can't stop there because we have to also start asking which are the basic questions, which is, ask yourself about the origins of the nation state. Black Lives Matter? Black Lives matter because they helped to form the nation state. How do we know that? New Orleans, the origins of the nation state in terms of the transatlantic slave trade. We end the international slave trade in 1808. By 1810, we've got 1.25 million enslaved persons within the United States. Black uteruses matter because between the years 1810 and 1860, the growth of the domestic enslaved population from 1.25 million in 1810 to 3,950,343 in 1860 was achieved by the production of the black female body. Black lives have always mattered. Black lives matter because they resulted in the expansion of the nation state. Black Lives Matter because in 1830, in the Indian Removal Act, the Cherokee, the Chickasaw, the Choctaw, the Creek, and the Seminole had to be displaced for cotton cultivation. The map you see here is 1850 because they've been removed. Black lives have always mattered. Black lives matter because they represent the fundamental economic engine of the nation state. 3,950,343 enslaved in 1860. The average valuation of the black body in 1860 is 850, which means $3.2 billion in 1860. That is the largest source of wealth in the United States. Black lives have always mattered. Those black bodies were used as collateral for loans. The production of those black bodies served as the capital for the construction of infrastructure of the nation state. How do we know this? Just in the year 1860, there's 16 million pounds of cotton collected in the United States, disproportionately by the black body. The black body is going to produce 1.6 million just in 1860. If you take everything that the United States produced in 1860 and put into a bucket, it doesn't equal cotton. The black body has always mattered and black lives have always mattered. All I'm doing is reaching into the data stream and pulling different data points out. All I'm doing is reaching into the data stream and pulling different data points out. What I would argue, though, is that when you're in this sort of 2024 and you're asking questions about it and data points are thrown at you, I want you to think about the relative importance of those data points. That's the fundamental engine of the nation state in 1860. I'm not really concerned about what else is being talked about. That is the dominant export capital for the United States in 1860. So you'll excuse me if I don't really care what the other data points are at that point, because I know the predominant economic engine of the nation state and its export capital is all connected into the black body. You see the confidence by which I operate? Because I'm using your numbers to tell you your story using your data. And I don't have to argue with you, because you can't argue that. It's central to the American economy, not secondary. So when black folks say Black Lives Matter, they mean Black Lives Matter, and they've always mattered. And they've always been central. And before we get caught up in this victimization rant that oftentimes happens connected into black intelligence and greatness, because we need to do that, because we're afraid of them. Let me say that to you again. We need to do that because we are afraid of them. Let me remind you of what Juneteenth actually is. It's that last moment when a group of enslaved persons whose labor has been extracted with no compensation are finally told at the conclusion of the American Civil War that you are free. Now be careful with that freedom thing, because that happened afterward. Is between the years 1860 and 1878, we got free, then we had the first redemption. And then Barack Obama got elected, and then we ended up with second redemption. Did I do that? Did I talk about the second redemption? You better be ready for the second redemption. Because the reason why Black Lives Matter is because you're in the middle of second redemption. And if you don't understand that you're in the middle of second redemption, let me tell you what the first redemption is. The first redemption is not what happens at the conclusion of the American Civil War. The first redemption is black folks making a decision that they are going to have a location, scrape together their resources, purchase land as a place of commemoration. Formerly enslaved people. We're not hiding in the corner. We don't want land on the periphery of the metropolis. We formerly enslaved persons are going to buy land in the middle of your city. We're going to call it Emancipation Park, and we're going to annually celebrate this moment of our emancipation. That's Juneteenth. Why have you never heard that before? That within a year, formerly enslaved persons purchased land to celebrate their freedom. Again, data points. Not being victims, not looking for support, big nasty government for money, didn't go to white philanthropy. None of that happened. Formerly enslaved individuals pull together a collection, pull together resources, go down to the city, purchase a piece of property, and hold on to it. Did I say white folks were involved in it at all? Did I say that they borrowed money? Did I say that they sought support? It grows because it reflects the migration pattern. Again, this is going to be in Texas. Texas and Louisiana migratory patterns between the years 1900 and 1940 are relatively small. They will increase during World War II, primarily into the western coast, which is going to be San Diego, Los Angeles, Denver, Bay Area, Seattle, Portland, which is why in those particular locations around Texas, Louisiana, into the eastern part, but mostly the west coast, Juneteenth has been a holiday that's been remembered. Why? Because it reflects the migratory patterns of African Americans in the Great Migration 1900 to 1940. Rhode Island's not Boston. So you don't have the migratory pattern that you have coming into from the southern part of the United States along the eastern seaboard that populated places like New York and Philadelphia and Boston. Providence is its own. And so if we're thinking about Black Lives Matter, we also have to ask the question in this middle of a redemption in the 1870s and 1880s, in which African Americans are lynched in grotesque expressions of white violence, in which African Americans are lynched in gross expressions of white violence, in which black bodies are removed, collective expressions of white violence. In the midst of that, Ida B. Wells. And so there's a godmother, Ida B. Wells, because she understood that you would use your pen and use your written voice as a vehicle to tell stories. The most famous story is the one in Memphis, because you had 3 young black men who simply beat out everybody because they were good at entrepreneurship, that extraordinary business model. They had a corner store. They understood that you would cut prices, supply individuals. They simply were better businessmen. They simply were better businessmen. It's not complicated. I'm just better than you, so you'll get killed. I'm just better than you, so you'll get killed. And so she begins to use her voice. She creates a national organization for colored women. She travels internationally. And in many ways, for the 3 founders of Black Lives Matter, her voice becomes particularly important. There's another important voice. Robert Williams. We celebrate nonviolent resistance and civil disobedience. We need it, because if what you had done to black folks is black folks didn't have deep love, you would have an Al-Qaeda in the United States in 1870 you would never been able to deal with. Did you actually hear that? For what you did to black folks, you would have a domestic Al-Qaeda that would work anxiously, actively to destroy your institutions, take your life, burn your buildings. So because you can't recognize domestically what's gone and happened, you can't see the international piece of it as well. You can't acknowledge what you've done to the Negro. Because if you start that place, that's a very easy slippery slope. And we again go back to the fundamental economic engine of the nation state has been the black life. Black lives have always mattered. Robert Williams simply asked the question as a trained military veteran that I recognized that civil disobedience and nonviolent resistance was important, And then he did what the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee did, which is to begin to arm themselves. As local NAACP organizers would do in the South. They would arm themselves, wouldn't they? See, you like the story of civil disobedience and nonviolent resistance. You like that story. It feels good. It's okay. It makes us feel good about American law represents. But that's Black Lives Matter, as well as Ida B. Wells. It is a violent, armed resistance to what has been violent, armed aggression against the African American community. Of course it's uncomfortable right now, because it's always okay as long as we don't name that you're killing Black people. And we're actually okay with that, because most of our culture, pop culture, is a destruction of the Black body. We're not okay when it's not Wesley Snipes and Blade, but when it's actually a man who's not in the Marvel universe who actually would kill. That's uncomfortable. That is the place that we don't want to go to. But I need you to actually see the ghosts that are walking the streets of Church Falls, Providence, of Newport, miseducated by your public school system, and you know it, don't play. What happened? Did you feel the upwelling? Misrepresented by your elected officials. Mostly just erased. So if Black lives are actually going to matter, then you're going to have to start actually acknowledging that you've got ghosts with Black bodies that you've been exploiting, and that you're building carceral systems to house them, to exploit their labor. You're gonna have to do the hard policy work, the difficult policy work, not of looking to the past and acknowledging that something happened. That's easy. That's what historians do. But if you actually want to engage this organization, Black Lives Matter, RI, as a political action committee, then you have to come with the perspective of what's your policy that you're going to do and enact that is going to fundamentally change the lived experience for those of African heritage in the state of Rhode Island. What policy, what resources, what actions will you take that actually will fundamentally change and impact their lives? Because if Black Lives Matter, and I'll argue they always do, and they always have, then that should drive you. And this should be a reminder of where you start. 3 individuals who simply decided to stop. Enough is enough. And to create an organization and to move a narrative. The creation and relationship of Black Lives Matter and Juneteenth is very, very, very clear. It's about those individuals at the conclusion of the American Civil War when they got freedom to create an organization, to build a movement, to tell a story. That's Black Lives Matter. No difference, no change. But don't just come here and listen to a speech by an old Black guy and walk out and have a nice afternoon. Don't get mad at him because he said some stuff that didn't feel good. Don't ignore it because it doesn't fit within your policy perspective. Because those ghosts are still walking around in Providence, Church Falls, in Newport. Whether they ignore them or not, at some point, those ghosts may awaken. Robert Williams says, when those ghosts awaken, there will be hell to pay. Thank you. Do you want to do Q&A, Harrison?
Yeah, go ahead.
Q&A, whatever floats your boat.
Any questions?
Comments, thoughts, personal revelations, fear and loathing. Drug life and stuff. It's tricky.
I am curious, in terms of policy, the legislature did revise the award. I guess what I would like to know, I mean, that was a very difficult change to make that took years to make a relatively minor change, but it is a revision of policy that I think it's difficult to tell exactly what difference it will make at this point, but I'm wondering what your responses are to that kind of policy reformation.
For people of color in this audience, how many have been pulled over by a police official in the state of Rhode Island? Raise your hands. That's my response.
Thank you.
And I'm not being cutesy.
No, I totally agree with you.
And I already knew what the response was going to be, right?
Yeah.
And so when we get into these debates, I just simply say, I have a cross-section of people of color within the state of Rhode Island. I'm asking a simple question. If indeed that the experience between people of color and police service in the state of Rhode Island was neutral, I would expect to see a couple, 3 hands. If it's kind of bad, I expect to see half the audience. Do the hands again for me. Take a look. Social scientific method always works.
Thank you.
It just works. And so, and if you're a politician, you want to go, okay, so what do I do? Well, listen. All I do is ask a question. Your constituents are sitting here and they're like, hands up. Which means there's an individual story here, right? That's why you need to be working on it. So I got no sympathy. Good. That's why. So that's got to be your passion. There. The mode. Right? Fewer moons ahead than behind. At some point, you've got to make the decision. They're going to do the work. I did a quick survey of each individual who came to Black Lives Matter on a beautiful Saturday. That's a simple question. Experience with police. 95%? 95%. And I could ask each one of these folks an individual story, and that just assumes I'm gonna make it worse. More than 5. Raise your hands if it's been more than 5 occasions of engagement with the police. So we're not even using a flattened survey instrument. I just used 0 to 1. I just went 1 to 5. And we're still about 35%. That's extraordinary. So it's not the policy when it comes to labor. Here's what we know. We know the police are frightened of black men. Frightened. They're frightened of the presentation of the black body is a frightening phenomenon. So you got to start there. If you walk up to my vehicle and you are petrified that something is going to happen, you can have 4 million policies all you want to. But if I'm afraid for my life because that body I've been told and socialized and culturated is going to attack me and I'm fearful, and I have the ability to end that individual's life, and I unclip, whatever happens in this interaction, he is already at risk. Because I have the ability to stop him and hold him legally. No other individual can do that for you, but I can say, you will stop. And if you don't, you're not complying. For most black men, interacting with the police is a fallback to a moment where I was horrible, I shouldn't have done this, but what clearly is what he wanted. Police officer pulls me over and said, yes, massa. He had a driver's license. And we had a nice interaction until he said he wasn't writing me a ticket. I said, thank you, sir. And a startled look on his face. I was like, well, you got what you wanted, didn't you? Didn't you get what you want? Didn't you? Yeah, you did. And each of these young folks are all negotiating that in their lives. So if you're going to, again, do something different in the state of Rhode Island, let's do a listening session with every local police department, fishbowl experience, group of youth in the community, officers sitting around, and they have to listen to what those youth say about their experience with the officers and turn around and listen. Nothing complicated. Humanize the people that you're beating the hell out of. That's old 1970s. Like folks are like, yeah, we did that. Like, of course that's what you did. Fishbowl, but it actually still works. If they're sitting across from a policy perspective, it's not going to happen. And frankly, when they beat the hell out of a young kid, if you don't actually punish them, then everything you said doesn't matter. And I'm going to ask another question. How many of you know the 2 or 3 bad cops in your community? Hands up. In other words, if you ask, not only can I tell you it's bad, I can name the people who are doing it. Like, I mean, really, like, slow down and really think about that. This was a scientific survey done by Dr. No, it was. I'm just simply asking some questions. How come those questions have never been asked? I simply asked the question, do you know the cops that are horrible in your neighborhood? Hands went up. Of course we do. Of course we do. So that's that sort of basic stuff that we got to begin to talk about. Other folks. Here we are. There. Here we go. There, Laura.
We all, my name is Juan Pichardo, currently City Council. We all know about the educational system in the United States and how it has not produced true success for a lot of people of color, particularly Black and Latinos, etc. With the latest challenges in education that we've had, traditional versus those new ones, public schools, and also the challenges of DEI. Wanted to hear your thoughts of, as you ponder the questions to possible solutions.
Danny, when I walk into the classroom the first time, what's the first thing that you notice?
You let us talk to each other.
Okay, what else?
White teacher. White teacher.
No.
Oh no, he was the teacher.
No. Love. Yeah, that's pretty much what I was describing. Making intentional eye contact with everyone in the room and holding space.
Love. I'm not going to listen to you until, and particularly students of color, very clear. They were like, this young man, like, whatever, I'm bored with this fool. But if he's loving on me, he's not engaged. That's right. Not because I'm embarrassed or ashamed him. Because he knows this, whoever this dude is, has got some good energy coming out. So we'll pay attention. It's not complicated. Way overthinking. Whatever I say at this point is going to be consumed. Why? Because the aura and the heart and me are all saying, I am here to be of service to you and your learning. Whether we're doing physics or math or chemistry doesn't really make a difference. The fundamental basis is, I am here for you to be of service. And then we can begin. I'm not talking about the curriculum. I'm talking about reworking the curriculum. Let's do one line, but I'm just talking about if I start there, the rest of it I can figure out. Why? Because now he's paying attention. Why is it complicated? You're like, oh, that's just simple. No, actually it is that simple. And then I evaluate the individuals based upon the response of the classroom. Why are we so afraid to turn over the evaluation of the teachers to the students in the classrooms that somehow they have no knowledge and understanding that the people in front of them actually should be evaluated in a certain way? Fearful of that. This is not against the unions. This is not taking teachers up. This is none of that stuff. This is that if you ask those questions, you would get answers that would help you to form policy. If I'm an elected official after this experience, I'm going to go back and I'm going to say, we need to do a listening experience with our constituents around police practices. Based upon what I just heard and what I just saw and witnessed, it's clear to me that we have a disconnect. Instead we figure out some certain vehicle to gather that information and data that will make a difference. It's in front of you. This isn't complicated. You saw it happen. You can choose not to, not your choice, but you're choosing not to, right? You're choosing to ignore all hands, and that's okay, but you're choosing to. And let's be clear about what you're doing. Let's not pretend we're not doing it. The two other hands.
I just wanted to say, my name is Agam, and thank you for sharing. I wanted to pick your brain, especially with the whole data. I wanted to talk about modern slavery. I think that's not spoken. We're always speaking about the past, but I think it's reflected more now. I'm an artist, and the reason why I say modern slavery is because as a Afro-Latina, my people are still picking cotton right now. And but we're not talking about that. So as a muralist, I had the privilege of, I don't even know if it's a privilege, but I painted the biggest mural in Rhode Island, which was the Gary Cross. And why I think that is because they funded us, a BIPOC artist group, to do this mural, and it made them feel great. And at the moment, I felt great about it. I think I walked in fearfully after I was told anything you see on this wall, because we're facing where the police enter and bring the inmates into the court. They said anything you see, you're not allowed to share. So I might get in trouble for this, but I think it's something that needs to be spoken about. And it's that whole modern civilization. So we speak about that and how they're hiring more police officers of color. But yet, when I was on that wall for three months from sunrise to sundown, 130 feet in the air, I got to see a lot of things that kind of made me sad. I felt like that wasn't being real, because I didn't see not one police officer that works in the court that was of color, but when seeing outside the wall, all the police officers on the streets were of color. And it was just like a kind of thing, and I didn't see much inmates that were not of color. So, and I think I wasn't even told after a certain point where, like, we're not allowed to even look down, but it was just really hard to hear the shackles underneath me. And so after that happened, seeing the reality behind it and not being able to speak about it, I actually did a mural, and this is my partner, and thank God she was there with me. I did a mural that said PVD United Unidos. I said Unidos United, and I actually got attacked because I put Spanish before English, and was spit on by an older man and told me to go back to my country. When the police, I defended myself, obviously. When the police officer arrived, he said that I should apologize to him, and then it said that he could arrest me right there. And thankfully I had my mom and my partner with me, but I'm sharing this because I'm so curious as to modern slavery and that perspective of, we're talking about past, but it's like, it's still happening, it's just happening in a way that kind of sugarcoats it. So I would have loved to, if you maybe know some data of what modern slavery can be or anything else.
One of my other lives is I am the curator of Black Diaspora at the John D. Library. The exhibit I worked on was on mass incarceration, and so particularly the foundational work of Mumia Abu-Jamal. And I say all that to say that the growth area within the mass incarceral state is women of color. Our tremendous growth between 1970 and last year. 1,000% increase, and it's primarily so. Of the women who are incarcerated, 40% of them have children under the age of 13. And we've placed women in a situation which we've said, you will take care of the emotional needs of the community. Not that they have some innately nurturing gene that they get born with, we're just simply saying it's your fault, and you need to go figure it out. But what happens when we remove that gendered individual and all the expectations of comfort and community that's embodied in that? So you're talking about 5, 10, 20 individuals who rely upon that person's emotional connection are now in the carceral system. What happens to those individuals? I mean, what happens to those individuals? And so modern slavery is also, I've lived in the two cities, Portland, Oregon, and Providence, Rhode Island, with the highest concentrations of strip mall and strippers in the entire United States. Weird. How I got that, I don't know. Don't ask me. Don't get in my business. We're going to talk about that. I'm trying to be funny about something that is horrific, because it's primarily women of color without resources who are being exploited. Right? Sex trafficking again. Modern slave trafficking. And the reason for the carceral state's increase for women is primarily they're just young to feed themselves, feed their children, and keep an abusive partner away. That's your main growth areas. You don't have to wait and run the numbers. You don't have to believe me, run the numbers, because that's where you're growing. And of course, it's disproportionately people of color. Black lives still matter. Because black lives and black women's lives are filling the carceral system. Just told you as an artist what you saw. This is literally a scientific survey. I don't have to do anything. This is, if you're an elected official in this room, you're getting gold. Constituents are giving you insight directly into their lived experience on the ground. You're getting gold. There's nothing I'm saying. All I'm doing is saying, listen to your constituents. This isn't about the guy in front. Listen to your constituents. They're giving you information and telling what needs to happen. That's why Black Lives Matter RI PAC is important, because it's gathering people together and saying there are voices here that you need to hear. That's why it matters. It's clearly why it matters. And if you don't honor it, then listen to their voices and listen to the people that brought them to the room. It's not complicated. One more here.
So my question is about how in academia, like you started off with, we sort of pull something out and create a theory or a hypothesis based on our lived experience. And there's this pattern of individualistic thinking that kind of perpetuates the collective misery that we all experience. So what, in your opinion, do you think could be done to remove this individualistic ideology as, like, you know, the hegemonic, like, thing, you know, like the thing that we all do is just think of ourselves. So how do we stop doing that?
I want everybody to take a moment and put your hand around your midsection, diaphragm, that's it, whatever it works for you. Just take it and just feel it. Deep breaths, just feel yourself and feel. So what Black Lives Matter is about is first and foremost making sure that this, your cell, your vessel, your body is safe. The second thing that Black Lives Matter is about is saying, and is my community safe? Because if this is safe, then I want to make sure that my community is safe, because I know as part of the collective that this breath doesn't happen unless I'm part of the community. I'm going to use a fancy jargon term, epigenetics. It's just a fancy way that scientists have figured out that we're all connected to each other. See, in academic, we kind of come up with fancy jargon that just explains jargon in order to be feel true. Anyway, so in that concept of epigenetics, it makes an argument that the condition and experience that you live in this world has the ability to impact your underlying genetic material, so much so that it would impact you for multiple generations. I want you to breath again and recognize what I just heard and said from all these individuals. And what are they carrying? If 95% of the people of color in this room have had a negative lived experience with the police, and we know that lived experiences modify, change, and morph DNA according to epigenetics, what are they carrying? And then what happens when it's over multiple generations that they're carrying? And don't go pathology. We're not doing that. You're just going to have to acknowledge that they're carrying something that gets constantly reinforced by the behavioral policies. I'm a very confident black man with a PhD, gun crap, all the rest of that stuff. You put me in a car in front of Providence Police Department, and I go petrified fear. I've done everything that you've asked me to do. I got your degrees from incredible institution, I act right, I talk right, I make you feel comfortable, got the hair, I make the whole shit, all that shit that make you feel good. And still one of your boys can roll up on me and you'll read an article tomorrow and I'm dead because he didn't comply. And you'll just go, Sunday morning paper. Sunday morning paper. And I've done everything. So what happens to this young brother? I got you your credentials. I'm gonna take your degrees. I've done everything they asked me to do. And Kumo D still can roll up on me and blow me away. Nothing will happen to him. That's my response to labor. I still, as an adult man, extraordinarily successful, centered in my soul and consciousness, service of the community, and fearful I'll be blown away by a police officer. So until you can remove that, I have no interest in policy changes. Until you can remove that, so that I don't have to worry about him. Until you can remove me having to have the conversation with my son, in which I told him 3 things. 1, put a license plate of the Catholic high school you go to on your car. Jesus. Put the license plate of the Catholic high school you went to, because maybe that'll give you some love. Yeah. When they pull you over, you take the keys, you put them in the seat next to you, you put your hands through the fucking steering wheel. Sorry. Because I need you to come home. through the steering wheel. Not around it, not hands up straight, through the steering wheel. What does that do? It makes the police officer being that you basically handcuffed yourself. My son's looking at me crazy. I'm like, I need you to come home. So I need you to put your damn hands on the steering wheel. I need you to never raise your voice. I need you to never respond with being the young man I raised you to be. I need you to not respond being the young man I raised you to be. I need you to hear that again. I need you to not respond being the young man I raised you to be. So you either have to choose life or dignity. You have to choose life or dignity. So when that changes, I'm more than willing to listen to policy. But that's a real conversation I have with my real son. Because I actually want to do that. Real conversation, real son, real world. And I'm from progressive California. I don't know what y'all do here in Rhode Island. So
Now I have to be the one that follows that? I don't know what else to say. Thank you everybody for coming here today. I encourage y'all to connect with us as an organization, to connect with elected officials here today so that collectively together we can take those actions that were talked about today. Thank you.
Thank you.